Sims here, and I follow your Detroit Lions group. Here's a little taste of what we have to offer.
Billy Sims knows barbecue, including brisket, chicken, pork, turkey, and ribs.
Okay, how?
We start early to slow smoke the most delicious meats for over 12 hours.
Where?
Wherever you want. Online, dine in, curbside, or carry out. Like we said, Billy Sims knows barbecue.
Thank you for your support. We love being a part of your community. We'll see you soon.
All right, guys. Welcome, everybody. It's episode 11. We're getting into some more Lions legends. We've got Charlie Sanders on the block tonight. One of my favorite players of all time for the Detroit Lions, and I'm sure he's one of yours as well. But before we get too far, I'd like to welcome Andy B., our co-host here on Rocked On Detroit Lions with Off the Cuff. Welcome, Andy.
How you doing, Will? Hey, check it out. I think I told you before, but I add a new jersey to the collection. Mr. Aiden Hutchinson, for everyone who loves him.
We saw that. So there must have been a gift from the wife.
No, it was a gift to myself.
Oh, well, hey, it all comes from the same place, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're getting into Charlie Sanders tonight. We're also going to do a little throwback to episode 8, which is Billy Sims. And the reason why is I did not have my esteemed co-host with me that night. And there's definitely some beneficial things that I'm sure Andy would like to talk about with Billy Sims. And so before we get into it, do you have anything else you want to share about what's going on this week? Any interesting Lions news? There was a couple of signings. There's some OTAs going on. It's interesting around Allen Park right now. Yeah,
it's exciting in Allen Park with that going on. The one little tidbit I heard today, Will, I don't know if you heard about this, but JMO, our boy JMO Williams, came out and said that he had no idea that what he did was actually against the rules and that he feels actually really right. He feels awful about it. And assuming he's right, and he does, I hope he does feel bad about it. And hopefully there's a wake up call for him right out of the gate. So that was kind of the big takeaway for the week. Aside from OTAs, watching some of these new guys, watching Gibbs, and saw Hendon Hooker throw a ball around or two. I'm excited. Things look promising right away.
Well, I could tell you this. JMO kind of danced around the question a little bit. He was not he was not really given into the media and giving them really what they wanted. And that's okay. I mean, yeah, he might feel terrible about it, but the thing that I gathered from his conversation was he just wants to move forward. And I think that's a great attitude to have. I mean, yeah, he screwed up. He's not overly apologetic for it. He's not over sympathizing for it.
No.
But he says he's the type of guy that he just wants to move forward when he makes a mistake is kind of what I got. And that's a great position to have. But I would have loved to have seen a little bit more like, hey, I let you guys down. And he knows that he let his team down. But hey, I let my guys down. I let my fans down, the city of Detroit down. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more emotion out of him, but he's young, he's learning, and he's heavily coached from the PR team, who, by the way, the Detroit Lions PR team was just awarded the best PR team in the NFL. So kudos to the Detroit Lions for doing something right this offseason besides drafting some monsters. So
it's gonna be a good year this year. I can't wait till the season starts. I'm still glowing from it.
It is. I didn't get a chance to see Hendon throw or Gibbs get on the field yet. I assume he was probably doing off the field stuff.
Yeah.
Last I heard, he's still kind of banged up a little bit with the ankle. But
he's trying to just kind of work it a little bit, but it'll be a while. But anyway, sorry, Will. Back to you, buddy.
Well, let's dive in. So Charlie Sanders. Charlie Sanders played with the Detroit Lions between 1968 and 1977. So we're going to look back at Charlie Sanders and his legacy as a Detroit Lion, as a Hall of Famer, as an iconic tight end, and what he meant to the city of Detroit, the fans of Detroit, the team, the Fords, the whole organization. He did so much with his time in Detroit and beyond, and we're going to get into that tonight. So Charlie Sanders, legacy in the NFL. He was one of the most iconic players in the history of the Detroit Lions, having spent his entire career with the team. from 68 to 77. He was known for his impressive skills on the field as a dominant force and as a tight end. So what I remember most about Sanders, not to go off topic right away, but I met him at a couple of training camps. He was always there. And I was telling Megan this the other night. I said, man, when he shook my hand, the guy had mitts for days. Like his hands were so big, but he was such a gentle human. Like he didn't try to crush you. He didn't try to impose his dominance of his size. He smiled, he talked with you, just a great human being. You could tell he just had a gentle soul. But and it kind of leads in, to this next part. Sanders earned numerous awards, setting several records, but he also dove deep into the hearts of the communities around the country, not just Detroit, but around his hometown as well. With a lot of kindness and his charitable causes, he was a renowned figure. Tom Izzo probably said it best that Charlie Sanders was probably one of the best humans on the planet, and I would agree wholeheartedly. What comes to your mind when you first think about Charlie Sanders as not just a football player, but as a human? Andy, you're muted, buddy.
Sorry about that. Well,
There you go.
kind of piggybacking off what you said, Will, the big thing about Charlie Sanders is just the heart he had as a human. He did have, from the videos I've watched, old highlights and whatnot, he had that very intimidating presence, but that was him on the football field. When he stepped off that field, he was just a genuinely kind human being. He gave to lots of charities, March of Dimes, United Way. He even started his Charlie Sanders Foundation. It provided college kids to make their way through as they're going to school. So he was all about the game and having fun and enjoying what he loved, but it was always about the people, the family around him. And that right there made him more above and beyond being a football player. He was just overall a genuine human being. And I think that's why he was obviously so beloved around the Detroit community, because what he gave back to a city that gave him so much and gave him his chance to show what he was.
Absolutely. We'll get into more of his charitable causes and some of the things that he did off the field in a little bit too. But yeah, he was a dominant force. In the NFL, his number one opponent was Dick Butkus. And watching some things about Charlie the other night, how he mentioned he kind of feels like he put Dick Butkus into the Hall of Fame. And that's because Dick kind of took him out a few times, man. They went head to head all the time. And being a rival of, Chicago, man, when they met on the gridiron, there was blood being spilt somewhere. And it was fun to watch. A lot of those old school tapes. You ever get a chance to watch some of the old NFL films, man, they're exciting. But Charlie, as a dominant force, he was drafted third round, 1968 NFL draft, 74th overall to the Detroit Lions. He made an immediate impact, catching 40 passes, 533 yards, and 3 touchdowns in his rookie season. And a little bit about tight ends in their rookie season. If you get a tight end that breaks 500 yards in their first season, you're doing something right. And you're doing something right because there's not many that can do it. And that kind of was the threshold, right? It was, if Gonzalez or anybody that, was good back then, in the 90s, 2000s, if they were getting 500 yards in a season, they were doing something right. And so that was the threshold for a tight end. But Sanders, he set the threshold. He put that out there that you've got to compete. You got to compete at a high level, and you got to go up and get after the ball. But he established himself as one of the top tight ends quickly in the league. But in addition, kind of going off to his off the field stuff, in addition to his on field success, he was also a leader on the team and for the Lions front office. He served as the team's player representative and was highly respected by not only his teammates, but also his coaches. He was known for his work ethic, his dedication, being a key part of the Lions' success during his career. And when he joined the Lions as the 1960s decade kind of wound down, he forged a very tight relationship with then chairman William Clay Ford Sr. And that spanned for 4 decades. Sanders made a tremendous first impression on Ford, who thought that Sanders was just a complete package, as a tight end, as a human, as an individual, as a family man. But little did Ford know that he was going to be that impressive as a player. So now I'll kick it over to you a little bit, Andy. What's next on the horizon for somebody that just entered the league, has an astounding, rookie season, has made a very personable connection with the chairman and William Clay Ford Sr., and he's already kind of starting to build his legacy, and he's just getting into it. So what's next for Charlie? What do you have that you want to share with us about him?
Well, the one thing I'll tell you right now, I started when I was going back and looking at Charlie Sanders, because he was before my time. So, I heard the name and whatnot. But as I'm watching these videos of him, what I thought was next for him was just to keep establishing himself as a force in the league. You watch any of these old clips of Charlie Sanders, one thing that stood out to me was that he actually, if you watch him come down or jump up to catch a ball or to come down with it, you can almost see images of Calvin Johnson next to him. Now, and what I mean by that is the way he could jump up for a ball in double coverage, the way a quarterback could, thread it between two defenders and Charlie Sanders would still come away with it. That was a bar that he set, like you said, not only in his rookie year, but it was set afterwards as well. He was like almost had that running back power in the sense that when he got the ball, if you weren't bringing him down, he was gone. He was a freight train. And I think that was basically what was next for him, in a sense that he kept building on what was already great in his rookie season, the trust with his teammates. And that's what I saw was up for him. So, watching all the old videos was just mesmerizing to see how he progressed through his rookie season and going forward as a tight end, because he did set a bar. Like you said, he was the bar while he played the game. He's absolutely fantastic.
It's funny you mentioned Calvin Johnson's name in the presence of Charlie Sanders, because they both did similar things, different positions, of course, but They both set the bar. There was never a receiver that ever played in the NFL like Calvin Johnson, with his combination of size and speed and power, but also being able to high point the ball, go up and get the contested catches, catch a ball around 3 or 4 DBs. Charlie did the same thing just 20 years, 30 years earlier, right?
Right.
So moving on to a little bit of stats about Charlie, as impressive as he was, he finished his career with 336 receptions, 4,817 yards, 31 touchdowns. He also rushed 39 yards on 9 carries out of the backfield and threw a touchdown pass. So he did a little bit of everything. His most impressive records, in my opinion, was his 70-yard touchdown reception in 1968. And was the longest touchdown reception by any tight end in Lions history at that time, too. So he set several records during his time with the Lions, for the tight end position and also for the Lions organization. He became the first tight end in the NFL to catch 40 passes in each of his first 3 seasons. Today, that's like catching 100 passes in each of your first 3 seasons as a wide receiver. It equates to that.
Right.
He also set the Lions franchise record for career receptions, a record that stood for almost 2 decades. He was a 7-time Pro Bowler during his career. He earned the honor between 1968, 1997. 1968, 1971, and 1974 to 1976. He was also named first team All-Pro 3 times between 69 and 71. Speaking on stats, do you have anything else you want to add to the stat line there?
No, all your stats are the same as what I got. His stats are they are really good at the end of his career. You and I's numbers are the same, Will.
So I can't wait to get to the few. Go ahead.
He was named a member of the Lions 75th anniversary team in 2008. He was named in the 1970s All-Decade team and chosen as a member of the Lions 75th anniversary team. Those are some standout things to be a part of as a player of his caliber.
Absolutely. There's not too many people on the 75th anniversary team,
Not at all.
It's a very, very eclectic group.
Yes.
But digging in a little bit more to his awards, during his 10-year career with the Lions, Like you said, he was on that 75th anniversary team, but 1970s all-decade team. He was selected to the Michigan Sports Hall of Fame in 2000. The NFL 1970s all-decade team, which we mentioned earlier. The Pride of the Lions. He was at the University of Minnesota Athletic M Club Hall of Fame, the North Carolina Sports Hall of Fame, and the Detroit Lions, like you said, 75th anniversary all-time team. Sanders, number 88. He was retired by the Detroit Lions in 2007 when Charlie was inducted into the Hall of Fame. And that jersey now is a reminder at Ford Field. I don't know if it's still hanging up in the rafters or if they moved everything. They used to have a Hall of Fame section there at Ford Field. I know they went through some changes when they were removing some of the banners. We'll see what it looks like this season. But it's a constant reminder of how he cemented his legacy in Detroit. He gets his jersey retired. He's inducted into the Hall of Fame. And the greatest part about all of that is his longtime friend and somebody that was the owner of the team, with William Clay Ford Sr., who got the opportunity to present Charlie with his enshrinement there at the Hall of Fame. And he had this to say about Charlie. He said, Charlie is what you look for in today in a tight end. He was a pioneer at that position. You knew he was Hall of Fame material. He looked that way right off the bat. Ford had that to say about Sanders back in 2007. But moreover, from an athlete, Sanders was a leader. He was a friend. But did you know he was a poet? Did you know that he had that inside him? He was a poet. And I found this funny little poem, not real funny, but back in 1976, he wrote a poem entitled NFL Just Passing Through. The Detroit News obtained this little gem from the Lions PR department. Man, they're knocking it out of the park back then too, huh? So he goes, here today, gone tomorrow. If you don't accept it, it's a life of sorrow. Trying to use our God-given talent, being brave like the night and bold and gallant. Those who can make it feel lucky indeed, it's God's own way of letting you succeed. I have a feeling that he stood firm on that poem, and it meant more to him than just some funny little gimmick poem. There's some meaning in there that I feel he kind of lived through his life. And as we get through the next few sections here about Charlie, his life kind of comes full circle and kind of jumps off the page at you a little bit. It makes you feel his presence and just who he was as an individual. But as a leader, and in addition to all of his impressive stats and records, he was known for his impact off the field. And this is the part of Sanders that I think that I enjoyed the most. He worked in the team's community relations department and served as a spokesman for the United Way, the March of Dimes, and later honored by St. Jude's for all of his charitable work. But he also created a couple of foundations. Would you like to speak to those foundations, or do you want me to go through it?
No, I'll start with the one I have. He created the Charlie Sanders Foundation in 2007, which I had said this kind of earlier. It provided for 2 college students per year for students in Oakland County, Monroe, Michigan, his home state, and his home state of North Carolina. He also started Have a Heart, Save a Life, which was within the CSF to raise funds to private young people to give them EKGs of any potential heart problems. And if you do ever want to donate, you just go to CharlieSandersFoundation.com and it'll be right there to donate. But those are the charities he had that really stuck out to me, and what he did, again, not only for Monroe, Michigan people, but back home in North Carolina as well.
Yeah, the EKG thing it's interesting. So I read about this a little bit the other night and watched some videos and listened to some of the speakers that were at like the golf outings and that. And there was a tragic death that happened at a high school. There's a high school basketball player named Wes Leonard. And during a game, I think he went up for a layup or a shot or something and just collapsed and had sudden cardiac failure in 2011. And this inspired Sanders to do something. And he didn't know what, but he wanted to do something. He felt that, and I don't have his exact quote in front of me, but he felt like, there's no reason why young children that want to go out and play shouldn't know that they're not healthy enough to play, they should know, that they're healthy. And a physical, we've all had physicals. They're kind of a joke. You're checking for a hernia. Today they go a little bit deeper, but they're not doing EKGs. They're not doing, a full round of blood labs on you and really making sure that you're healthy enough to go out and play sports. So that inspired him, and it inspired him to start that foundation, Have a Heart, Save a Life. And he was joined at fundraising events by other legends of, Michigan sports, Tom Izzo being one, who lauded Charlie, like I said earlier, as one of the best men on the planet. And this Have a Heart, Save a Life, man, it sparked an international conversation. And when they did all this research and put together all the stats, 1 in 3 high school athletes suffers from some sort of a cardiac event. And I just thought that was an astounding number, a shocking number. You don't hear about it all too often. And one of the individuals that was at the golf outing, I think it was in 2011, Ndamukong Suh. And Ndamukong Suh played with one of his best friends who had a heart condition. And so he was there because, that whole idea of Have a Heart, Save a Life struck a nerve with him. And he was there to support it because he lost a good friend, to having a heart condition that was unknown. So moving forward, and it was the inaugural golf outing was in 2012. So the inaugural golf outing in 2012, Charlie Sanders, Have a Heart, Save a Life celebrity golf outing, was in West Bloomfield, Michigan. If you go to rockdownpodcastnetwork.com and you look up the article on Charlie Sanders, you scroll about halfway through, there's a hyperlink in there where you can go and watch Fox 2's special on the golf outing and listen to some of the things that the attendees had to say and what Charlie Sanders had to say, and get a little bit more information about what it was all about and why it was so important. And it's a great little piece to watch. Pretty touching piece too.
Hey, Will, do you remember years ago that basketball player named Hank Gathers who died on the court?
I don't. Was he in Michigan?
No, I don't remember what college it was. But he was maybe 21 and he was during a game and he just collapsed. And I think that kind of reminds me of, that touches a little bit more on, like, it makes me think of probably the stuff that Charlie Sanders thought about was, unfortunate stuff that can happen to people like that. So it's, again, standout human being.
Yeah, he really, again, a pioneer, like William Clay Ford said. He was a pioneer all over the place, man, whether it was on the field, off the field, in the front office, at training camps, player personnel, you name it. He wanted to be involved and he wanted to do something different. The most shocking number that I found about Sanders had nothing to do with his records or his stats. He spent 43 years with the Lions franchise.
Yes, he did.
10 years playing, 33 years as an employee working for the organization. There were some other things that he did as well, and I'll let you kind of take that away. So give us a little snapshot of Charlie Sanders after football and some of the things that he did.
After football, he did serve as a color analyst for the Detroit Lions from 83 to 88 for some of those from their local channels there. Channels there. And then he became assistant coach of the wide receivers for the Lions. And then after that, he held that role till about 1997. And he went back to radio for just a couple of years on the local Detroit sports stations. And then in 2000, he became the assistant director of personnel until 2015. He held that position until his passing. So those are the ways he stayed very active within the team. He was a scout. Like I said, he was director of personnel. So he had the impact of also, he probably had that impact of, having a say of bringing in players like Stafford and Calvin Johnson, all those great players. I mean, he didn't obviously pick them himself, but he scouted them, and he was one of the ones that made those players of our team possible. So that is just a quick snapshot of the ways he was involved. I mean, he retired from football, but he never retired from the Detroit Lions. That was his team. That was completely his home.
He really never retired from the game of football. He was always surrounded by it, and he loved it. And one of the most touching things about Charlie Sanders was how amazing of a person he is, or he was.
Right.
But there was more to his legacy that he wanted to leave behind that was more than football. But as an amazing person and a father and a husband, he kind of left us too soon. I think he was 68 years old.
He was young.
And he developed a malignant tumor behind his right knee, which was discovered while he was undergoing a knee replacement surgery. Of all things, kind of like my own incident, when they found, the cancer of the thyroid. I wasn't there for that. They found it for some other reason. And so he went through the similar thing. He's there for another reason. They find a malignant tumor. He underwent some treatment, but he later died July 2nd of 2015 at age 68. He did leave behind his, I believe his wife's name was Georgiana. Their 9 children, Mia,
Yep.
Cherie, Mary Jo, Georgiana Jr., Charlie Jr., Natalie, Talisha, Wayne, and Jordan. So big family man. So in conclusion, at least on my side of this, he was one of the most dominant players in history for the Detroit Lions. He changed the game for modern day tight ends. He was a true legend to the NFL in every imaginable way. But to Charlie, his legacy really was more than just playing football. His true spirit, his leadership, and his willingness to raise awareness to help so many people off the field was his true passion in life. Though and through his charitable efforts, the foundation, and the outpouring of support, Charlie achieved his true legacy. A legacy that meant helping others. Being a devoted father and a husband all came first. Charlie really continues to inspire a lot of us today. And his legacy, his impact, his achievements, they will always be celebrated by the fans of the NFL, and especially the Detroit Lions organization. A man of integrity, man of grace and dedication, an undeniable work ethic. And that work ethic is what made him a beloved figure in the community. His speech at the Hall of Fame, I thought, was telling of just who he was. And he said this. It was part of his speech. He said, "I'm not the self-proclaimed Hall of Famer who desired to be in sports. I'm a guy that liked to challenge and challenge myself with the understanding that winning is finishing. To my fellow brothers in the NFL, I thank you for your sacrifice." Well, Charlie, you certainly finished, my friend, and you finished on top. You helped a lot of people. You touched a lot of lives. You sparked an international conversation about young, healthy children playing sports and having the opportunity to know if you're healthy or if you're not. And the way that you played the game was awe-inspiring. So my hat's off to you, Charlie. You're always going to be a Lions legend to us and to every other NFL fan out there. May you rest in peace, big man. And you'll always be in the heart of a Lion. So up next is the recap of Billy Sims. But before we do that, do you have anything else you want to share on Charlie?
Yeah, I got to say, cancer hits home a lot with me and a lot of people. I know I've lost some family to it. Will, when I met you and we started this venture together, I know you had your scare with it. And you've become a good friend of mine right off the bat in the few months we've known each other, buddy. So you got through it and made me real happy, brother. So I'll give you a virtual pump right there, dude.
That's right. That's right.
But I did find something really I actually really wish I could remember where I found it. I believe it was one of the videos I was watching, looking at some of his highlights. But in one of the videos I did find, it said that the day before Charlie Sanders passed away, he was one of the typical people that hated cancer, hated it. And he basically said that he's not going to let cancer kick his butt. He's going to beat it. Yep. And he said that the day before he passed away. So
that's rough.
That right there alone inspired me to realize that, just always don't. It makes me think of it maybe in a different way that, you can't take anything for granted, and he's a good man. And like I said, he's once a lion, always a lion, and he's got the heart of a lion. So, Charlie, from me, hats off to you, and you're missed from all of us in the Lions community.
That's a great way to send Charlie off. And, what you said, it goes right back to what he wrote. Here today, gone tomorrow. If you don't accept it, it's a life of sorrow.
Mhm.
Trying to use our God-given talent, being brave like the night, bold and gallant. Those who can make it feel lucky indeed. It's God's own way of letting you succeed. So he knew that he had a purpose, and he knew, later on that he had to fight, and that's what he tried to do. And yeah, man, it's a tough subject with Charlie because he's such a good human being.
Absolutely.
So we're gonna get off the sadder of the topics tonight. We're gonna move on to Billy Sims. So, like I said earlier, we're going to recap Billy Sims a little bit tonight. And the reason why is in episode 8, Andy wasn't able to join us. He was having too much fun in Mexico or something like that, I believe. He was, partying it up or whatever.
Admit it. You can't do it without me, buddy. Come on.
So by the way, before we get into Billy Sims, so rockdownpodcastnetwork.com, everybody needs to go there and check it out. Check out the articles. You go to the Rocked On Detroit Lions Facebook page, okay? And on there, you'll see some links. You'll see this link tree. It's not a gimmick. We have the newest, hottest sports fans chats just launched. It's going to be the next hottest thing to sweep the world. Not the country, the world.
Yes.
So if you like to chat, with all of your friends in a Facebook chat, right? You got a group chat going on. Well, you got to be friends with those people to have a chat, right? You got to invite them in. Well, with this new chat, you could be friends or not be friends with these people, but it's a chat that is worldwide. Anybody can get in once they're invited or they find the link. You could be talking to people across the world about Michigan or Michigan State or the Detroit Lions or the Kansas City Chiefs or whatever team that, or sport that you want to chat about. So head over to rockdownpodcastnetwork.com, check out our articles, and then head over to our Facebook page at Rocked On Detroit Lions. Find our link tree, and we'll be sure to put it up again tonight once we're done. We're trying out a new system tonight, so we can't put everything up. This is all brand new. It's hopefully going well. I still see that it's up. We're still live, so that's good.
That's a good one.
So anyway, check it out. It's we got Rocked On Sports Chats. We've got U of M football fan chats. We've got Michigan State football fan chats. We've got Rocked On Detroit Sports fans chats. Just give it a try. Sign up. Right now, it's mostly iOS, so Apple devices. The Android version will be coming out soon. But give it a shot, man. It's free. Support us. Have some fun. Engage your family and your friends. Talk it up. Rock Down Sports. So Billy Sims. Before we head over to Billy Sims, there was a what was it that came out today? Now I forget. It was something that came out during Dan Campbell's press conference. Oh, the funniest thing that I heard about Dan Campbell today. So he was having a press conference and he said, well, in my opinion, Calvin Johnson's a Hall of Famer. I think everyone thinks, and then he stopped and he's like, why did I just say that? not realizing he's already in the Hall of Fame. So it was pretty hilarious.
Good old MCDC. He's definitely good. And it's funny. I'm gonna have to look that up. I didn't see that today, Will. I'm gonna have to check that out because I could totally see him blundering that one.
He's obviously in OTA form right now. He's not in mid-season shape, but
no.
He's but they were talking about Calvin Johnson being back on the field and working with the guys and just being around the team. And Dan was saying how he knows Calvin as a teammate and wish that everybody else could know him as the teammate, not just the good person he is, but the teammate that he was, because somebody of his stature, again, a lot like a Charlie Sanders stature, right? A Billy Sims stature, just someone bigger than the game of football. sometimes their egos get in the way, or sometimes, the way they behave gets in the way. And none of these guys we're talking about were like that. Calvin Johnson, Billy Sims, Charlie Sanders, any of these legends that we're ever going to talk about were like that. And if they were, we've never read it or heard about it. It's not to say that everyone doesn't have their moment, but these guys were as genuine as they get. And that's why they were so good at what they did. So Billy Sims, we're going to look back to 1980 to 1984. And we're talking about a guy, by the way, go check out Billy Sims Barbecue, Farmington Hills. It's on the east side of the state. We're going to be doing something with Billy here in the next 4 months or so. We're going to get an opportunity to sit down with him, and crossing our fingers. We're hoping that it all pulls through. It's supposed to. Hopefully get you a little behind the scenes look at some things that we're trying to plan for this fall. And you'll be the first to know as soon as it goes up. But so the NFL, they definitely have had their fair share of talented running backs over the years. But when this guy came out of Oklahoma, you're talking a different breed of running backs, right? You're talking some guys have impact, and then there's some guys that land like a meteor from outer space. And Billy was that meteor, man. He crash landed and he wreaked havoc in the NFL, and he went all out. I'm seeing kids at Keenan and Peele or whatever on NFL Films the other night. Did you watch that one?
I did. They were talking about when the ever famous the kick,
the karate kick. Yeah,
the karate kick.
I totally forgot about that, and it's funny because just last year, the year before, when he was doing some NFL stuff, because of Keenan and Peele, I think it's Keenan.
It's just Key.
Sorry,
yeah.
Key and Peele. They were doing a mock skit of that whole karate kick thing that Billy Sims did. It was just hilarious. But yeah, I totally forgot about that. I mean, the kick heard around the world, right? I mean, that was just incredible.
Well,
it didn't look like he was trying to kick him, but it looked bad. It just didn't look as bad as I thought it really was.
Well, and you listen to what Key was saying. He actually said that was one of the first plays he ever saw, and he said that that's what got him into football. Was after he saw that, he wanted to watch football from that point on because he didn't want to risk missing something like that again. So
that's funny.
It was. I mean, the 98th greatest play of all time was Billy Sims karate kick. So another one. Go to NFL Films. Go to YouTube and check it out. It's if you've never seen it, it's something to see. Trust us.
Maybe one of these days when we can figure out this new system we're using, we'll be able to play some of these clips. We just got to get everything passed through copyright first, so we don't have any issues. But
exactly.
So let's get into Billy Sims. This guy, man, what could have been for this guy? Sims was born in St. Louis, Missouri. All right, later moving to Hooks, Texas, Midwest. around 8th grade. He grew up loving baseball more than anything else. He was a Cardinals fan. Go figure. And once he made his way to Texas, man, there's only two things you do in Texas. You play football and you cook some great barbecue and pecan wood. So he found his love for football, or actually Post Oak, I think, is down in Texas. So he was a standout running back, though, man. As soon as he got into high school, went on to play college ball at the University of Oklahoma. He became the first player in school history at Oklahoma to rush for over 1,000 yards in each of his first 4 seasons. He had a very successful college career. Sims was selected first overall in the 1980 draft by none other than the Detroit Lions. I don't know if you remember this, but his coach at Oklahoma was none other than Barry Switzer.
That's right.
And I found that really interesting. And then after, doing a little more research on this whole timeline, Barry and Billy are still good friends today. Excuse me there. Sorry. Throat sometimes gets a little clogged up. So they're still great friends today. And, Billy's been through hell and back, and man, has he made a great life for himself and his family, and doing wonderful things. But during his career, his rookie season, blasted onto the scene in 1980, quickly established himself as one of the top running backs in the league. Sims led the NFL with rushing 1,303 yards, 13 touchdowns in his rookie season. He was named the NFL Rookie of the Year. He selected to his first Pro Bowl and named the first team All-Pro, all in his rookie season. He went on to have a very successful career with the Lions as a dominating force. Excuse me. Sorry about that. Can't wait to go to speech therapy next week. Get that fixed.
I'm sure you're looking forward to that.
No, not really.
Yeah,
No, it's like it gets really tired and it like makes me yawn. I don't get it. But hey, I guess it happens after thyroidectomies.
Well, and we're getting old too, Will, so let's just face reality.
No, see, I'd rather blame it on the thyroidectomy than age, but you know. So he went on to have a very successful career with the Lions as a dominating force in the NFL over the next few seasons. 1981, he rushed for a career high 1,437 yards, scored 16 TDs. He was named to the Pro Bowl and first team All-Pro for the second consecutive season. Now I'm going to stop here. And I'm going to ask you, Andy, before he gets into year 3, what do you want to share about Billy Sims? And who was this man, you know, that really put Detroit running backs on, you know, on notice that if you're going to come into this league and you're going to play for, you know, Detroit in the black and blue league, you know, this is how you got to play. Because this guy balled out. I mean, when you watched him run, he ran with such vision, but vigor and energy and anger, and he just didn't stop. I mean, he was Barry before Barry, but not as much dancing, right? He was powerful yet fast. He was quick-footed, quick-witted, yet he'd slice you and dice you any which way he could to get to the end zone, and he got there often. So give me some talk here on Billy Sims. Why was he so important to you?
Well, one thing about Billy was, you see, so Billy Sims wore the ever famous number 20. Well, as everyone knows, number 20 is always going to be synonymous with Barry Sanders. Everyone forgets that number 20, Mr. Sims, was before Barry. He, from videos I've seen, because just like Charlie Sanders, Billy Sims was before my time. He was 80, 84. I was a baby. So I don't exactly have memories of seeing Billy play, but the videos I've watched, he was elusive. He was slippery. Him and Barry had similar but somewhat also different running styles. You know, Barry could drop back for 10 yards and give you 20 back in return, you know, positive. But with Billy, he was going to get positive yardage, and he was going to get through no matter what. Nothing was going to stop him. He was an absolute – Barry Sanders actually said it himself, that Billy was actually more of a power back than he was. I remember actually, Will, you and I spoke about this last night. Now, we both agreed we don't know this for sure. We don't have clock speeds. We don't have like an actual drag race. But I watched some highlights of Billy doing, like, say, one of his 50-yard runs. And I watched a couple videos of Barry, you know, doing one of his standard 50-yard type runs down the field. And as I look at both of them, I try to visualize them side by side. And I'd almost say Billy Sims might have been even a little bit faster than Barry. He had the career that we don't know how it would have actually turned out. To me, what makes him important to me is that he's almost like a mystery player. Like, let's put it this way. I asked my dad about Billy Sims once, and my dad immediately was like, oh my God, Billy Sims, you know? And my dad was the one who actually said that he even thought, because he watched Billy Sims play, that he probably could have been better than Barry. He probably would have broken a lot of the records that Barry wound up actually breaking. But yeah,
Billy held the records first, right? So then Barry went and smashed them all.
He did, but what I'm saying is, I think that had Billy Sims' career actually not been ended tragically so shortly by that injury he sustained, I really, really wonder how many more yards, how many more records he could have gotten, and if Barry would have even had a chance to even come close to breaking them. It's another one of those mysteries to me and all of us that we'll actually never get a chance to know. But he's important to me because he was that shining star and that, like, another one of those rays of hope for our Detroit Lions, and in times where it just always looked dark for us. I wasn't old enough to see him play, but the highlights and the character he seems to show, he's very important to our team even now. as just a face of our team. That's what made it important to me. Just an impressive, from what I saw, an impressive power running back. Unbelievable.
Yeah, he definitely had a lot of unique qualities about him and his running style that was different. And
It was.
and I think you really kind of you hit it on the head there that they're different, but they were kind of the same. You're going to get the same results from two different ends of the spectrum.
Right.
Barry would, like we talked about last week, he probably ran more east and west than he actually did north and south, but all in the same darn play.
Exactly.
Whereas Billy hit a hole and he's gone.
Exactly.
And if he's not hitting somebody, he's going straight to the end zone, and he might go through 4 or 5 or 6 people. Just incredible to watch. I mean, the guy was just lightning special. You always talk about capturing lightning in a bottle, and he was definitely lightning in a bottle. And I think the most important thing that you said is, what if?
Mm-hmm.
And I said that last week too, or 2 weeks ago, was, could you imagine if Billy Sims never injured his knee?
Oh my God.
And if he was still playing, through 86 and 87 and 88, would the Detroit Lions have ever drafted Barry if he was still healthy? And the reason why I say that is because, according to Billy Sims, Mr. Sims, they weren't even going to draft Barry.
Nope.
Billy Sims is the one that went to Coach Fonts and said, hey, I know good, but this is great. You have to draft Barry.
Right.
And that was right around the time that Billy was going to be coming back to the Lions for it was the 88, 89 season. He was trying to make a comeback. So
he wanted to come back in 89. He made an announcement in 88 that he was attempting a comeback because he said, and I quote, he said, I feel as fit as I did back in 83.
So the what if, you just, the big question mark is going to loom out there. And who knows, man? It's one of those things that you almost wish you could live a double life and go back and watch it all over again. But so we're going to get into his 3rd season. This is the season that I kind of hate the most, because this is the beginning of the downfall of Billy Sims, and it, for such a wonderful human and everything that he's done in his life today, I think it reshaped his life. But in 1982, or I'm sorry, in 1981, he rushed for a career high 1,437 yards, 16 TDs. And then in 1982, he suffered a knee injury that forced him to miss most of the season. He returned to form in 83, rushing for a little over 1,100 yards, and scored 8 TDs. He was named to his 3rd Pro Bowl in just 4 seasons. And I think that's just incredible. I mean, you go Pro Bowl, first team, year 1 and 2. You have a knee injury in year 3. You come right back in year 4, and you go right back to Pro Bowl. And, it's just incredible to me. So the next season, his career ended midway through the 1984 season when he suffered a catastrophic right knee injury in a game against the Minnesota Vikings on October 21st. And during that game, which is another incredible feat, he goes and he sets the rushing record, and then he gets hurt. I mean, fitting fashion for just an incredible, legendary running back, and now an incredible legendary human, and all of the things that he's been able to bounce back from. And speaking of bouncing back, Andy, why don't you give us a little bit of a picture of kind of what Billy Sims has gone through post football, and how he's been able to work himself back and regain, his stardom, if you will.
Well, first little disclaimer here. I did watch. I actually was able to find a clip of the game where he hurt his knee. I recommend don't ever watch it. It just don't. It was yeah, and actually, just so people maybe know, and I'm going to read this word for word real quick because His knee injury was classified as a lateral, collateral, and LCL, a lateral corner, lateral meniscus, and extensive articulate fractures in his bearing surface, which I believe that's the kneecap, was somewhat shattered. Unfortunately, the two main factors to continue as a player is the extent of ligament damage and the extent of joint damage. And unfortunately, Billy had both. So it was time to call it a career. He did try to rehab his knee for about 2 years, but in 86 is when he called it quits. And then Will and I did elaborate that he did try to make another comeback in 88, but to no avail. And the rest is history in 89 when Mr. Sanders came along. After he left football in 84, though, he struggled. He did struggle financially. He did get a $1 million settlement on top of all his millions he received during his career, but he lost a lot of his wealth and his fortune that he made from a lot of failed business attempts. He tried to do a nightclub, tried to do a radio station, dry cleaner and a parts manufacturer, and it just none of these things ever came to fruition for him. And he really, really hit a financial spiral and lost a majority of his money. He did wind up selling his Heisman Trophy to a Texas businessman that he actually was like a father figure to him when he was a freshman in high school. But the agreement was at some point to actually buy the trophy back with 8.5% interest, of course. But that actually did come to fruition. Eventually, he did meet the gentleman that he did go into business with to start his barbecue restaurant, which definitely helped him out quite a bit financially afterwards. He ended up opening up, and he manages to this day 54 locations. Will gave him a shout out for the location out in Eastern Michigan for his restaurant. So after football, like I said, he really ran on hard times trying to make something of his life afterwards because, hey, let's face it, he probably was not mentally in the best shape or form having to walk away from what was probably going to be such a promising career. And but he did make up for it later, afterwards with his restaurants and his charities and all sorts of things like that. So what looked like a nosedive in fortune wound up becoming a very, very good life he wound up being for himself, even to this day.
You can never put yourself into somebody else's shoes and to know what it's like to have such an impressive ability in any sport or any talent or, anything that you do in this world that requires a high level of ability, and he was able to do it to the best of anybody. And like you said, to walk away from that because of a knee injury and not having the type of surgeries that we have today and the type of medical advancements that we have today to repair that knee and have him bounce back. It can be done now in less than a year. Look at Teddy Bridgewater. He was never going to play again.
Oh, no.
And he's back, so if you can come back from something like that, I fully believe that if Billy Sims had an opportunity in this day and age, he probably would have been able to bounce back. And maybe that first injury is what did it, and that first injury is probably what led to, maybe some scar tissue buildup or whatever that just did him in, in that second injury. But, it's interesting when you talk about what happens to NFL players when they leave the sport. There's a statistic out there that I don't know off the top of my head, but so many go broke and go bankrupt or end up in trouble with the law or whatever. And I think that the NFL has done a much better job today at preparing people for their financial futures because it is a lot of money. And you don't know who to trust. And depending on where you grew up or who you grew up with and, your surroundings, you're kind of just throwing a whole bunch of cash. And now you've got all these people that want to be your friends or want to sell you something or want you to invest in this or buy that. And, you think that the money's never going to end because, well, I'm God's gift to green earth, man. Look at me. I'm, Mr., number one wide receiver or running back or defensive tackle or whatever. And, the money's never going to run out. And then an knee injury happens or an ACL or a broken arm or whatever, and then the game changes and you've made these investments and maybe they weren't the wisest investments. Maybe you were getting played a little bit. So it happens more often than not to a lot of people in the sport, not just Billy Sims. I think he was just a little predated on by some people that you know took advantage of him. And
Yeah.
and now when you look at his success and you look at what he's been able to do, it's nothing short of amazing. Um, 50 plus restaurants, franchises.
Hmm.
There's franchise fees involved. There's his name all over it, and yeah, they do have really good food. That's the one thing that he said in one of the videos is, "You want me to do a restaurant, but if the food sucks, they're going to be looking at me, not you." You
Right.
know, I thought that was just classy, but the food's good, and I hope I have a chance to show him just how good Will Rock can cook because it's going down.
Oh, geez.
I took Bobby Flay down. I'll give him a run for his money.
So I guess when we sit down with him, Will, am I going to have to do a segment of you and him having some kind of cook off? Maybe.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if he actually cooks. I'm sure they have their recipes and their chefs and their line cooks, and it's just all kind of it's kind of like a manufacturing line now. You do the same thing every day, but it'd be interesting to see what kind of pits they use and what kind of wood they use and how long they smoke it and what temperature. And but yeah, I'm definitely going to be getting out there in the next few weeks just to go have a bite, take a long little road trip, just to go check it out and see what it's like.
Thanks for rubbing it in.
Hey, I'm pretty sure there's some out by you too. You just got to travel about 12 hours.
Yeah, no problem.
So, getting through to some of Billy's stats. Billy Sims, his stats were nothing but impressive, right? Like Andy was saying, he had a 5-year career, albeit, a year and a half he didn't play, roughly. He rushed for 5,106 yards on 1,131 carries. 4.5 yards a carry. I mean, that's pushing the ball. 4.5 yards in today's NFL it's good. It's really good.
It is.
Scoring 42 rushing touchdowns. He was probably one of the rarest talents on the field with the ball in his hands. And, everyone was so focused on his rushing ability. They kind of forgot about, the passing game. Cause I think he only caught like 2 passes at Oklahoma. And I think it was the second year as a Lion. He was like the second leading wide receiver on the team. So he finished a career 186 passes for 2,072 yards. Now I can't remember the numbers right off the top of my head. But Barry Sanders, I want to say, played 10 years and 15,261 yards, somewhere in that neighborhood, right? 1,000 yards a season or more. So if you look at what Billy did in only 3.5 seasons, if you were to do the math, 3.5 seasons, 5,106 yards. Remember, you wanted to compare it, right? So let's try to compare it. Let's do some numbers right here live. 5,106. I don't know how many games he played. You'd have to go back and look to see how many games he actually played. 3.5. So about 1,460 yards a season. You multiply that over 10 seasons, he would have been right around the same numbers Barry had. And as far as receptions in that go, I think Barry finished with a little over 2,500 yards or 2,900 yards receptions. And so he was definitely well ahead of where Barry was, at the time that he left the NFL. But he definitely set a lot of records, several records, which obviously Barry owns all those records now. Not to throw shade at you, Billy Sims, but
no,
we just got to say it for what it is. He became the first player in NFL history to rush for 3 touchdowns in each of his first 3 games. He set the Lions single season rushing records with 1,437 yards in 1981, a record that stood for 17 years until Barry Sanders came to town. And you can read about, all of this stuff again on rockdownpodcastnetwork.com. We're just kind of glossing over the articles, giving you some of our takes about the players. But the man, the myth, the legend, and the philanthropist that Billy Sims is, and his impact on the field was definitely undeniable. He was known for his kindness and his generosity, just a very bright spirit. And after, reading and watching some more about Billy the other night, man, he's an eclectic individual. He's always happy, it seems like. He's always engaging with the audience or his friends or family, whoever he's with. There was a story about him going to a mall, doing some signings, some autographs. and he did not want to leave. Like he wanted to be there until the last person left, and I just thought that was incredible. He was devoted to his fans, and that's fans of Oklahoma and Detroit Lions. So as Billy Sims, graduated through his football times and went into his business acumen, he's a very successful business owner with Billy Sims Barbecue. He's amassed a ton of awards. But in conclusion, he was probably one of the most dominating players in the NFL during his time. He earned numerous awards and set several records during his 5-year career. He's definitely a true icon of the Detroit Lions legends. Somebody that is going to leave a lasting impression on many, many, many Detroit Lions fans of the future when they take a look back. And that's part of the reason why we do these things, is we want to be able to put some fresh content out there about some of these Lions legends. So as the up and coming ages, become Detroit Lions fans, that, they might come across our podcast here or there and get to learn a little bit about, some of these players. But Andy, I'm going to turn it over to you. Tell me the rest of what you want to say about Billy Sims.
Well, I got a little fun factoid here that I found. He was a Oklahoma Sooner, and I'm sure you've heard of the Boomer Sooner, haven't you there, Will?
Oh, of course.
Yeah, the Boomer Sooner.
Boomer Sooner.
Exactly. He started that, and he did it whenever a Oklahoma Sooner was named a Heisman. He would lead that chant, Boomer Sooner. And I'm not going to yell it right now just because kind of like you, my little hoarse right now, but he did it with Jason White, Sam Bradford, Baker Mayfield, and Kyler Murray, who I'm not going to say anything about Kyler Murray since I live in Arizona, and I don't want to make any Arizona fans upset. We'll leave that alone. But
I forgot that Baker Mayfield went to Oklahoma.
You know what? I'm reading this list that I have that he did with Bradford, Mayfield, and Murray. What happened to these Oklahoma Sooner players? They were amazing as a Sooner, but then they got to the pros, and I don't get. I mean, I'll tell you what. I thought Baker Mayfield was going to probably be the savior of the Browns finally, and well, we all know how that turned out.
I haven't lost hope on Baker. I think he went to the Browns.
Yeah,
I mean,
but they had hope though. I mean, no, but they were actually building something that looked decent. I mean, they had Chubb, they had gotten Odell Beckham. I mean, they were getting some decent pieces. So maybe it's the curse of the Browns. I don't know. You're right. It was the Browns, but I mean, say the same thing.
There's only one team in the NFL that's really worse than the Lions records wise. And I think it is the Browns. So yeah. I mean, I just think he was set up to fail. And not to get off topic, but
it's fun. It's fun to get off topic every now and then.
Anybody that goes to the Browns has been destined to fail. I'm sorry.
You know what?
Everybody. And now look who's there to put him to pasture, or who was there in the beginning, so it's Deshaun Watson.
What did he sign again? 230 fully guaranteed. Good Lord.
Dude. He's going to be put out to pasture, man. He's not going to do anything in Browntown.
They're not going to put anything around him. That's why. And actually another one.
They can't afford to now.
Everyone out there who might be in listener land, I'll tell you right now, go to NFL Films on YouTube and check out the top 10 most snake-bitten franchises in the NFL. Will, I'll give you one guess who number one was.
It was probably the Browns.
It was definitely the Browns. Yeah. I don't know how Detroit wasn't higher up on the list, but yeah, we were on the list, but I think we were like number 6. And I'm like, how are we number 6? We should have been right behind the Browns. But again, my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if we've really been snake bitten as we were led astray by bad management for about 15, 20 years. There was some good things going on during the Fonts era.
Yeah, there was.
And then it kind of just stopped.
It went off the cliff after that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there were some good things going on with the Millen era, but then he made some really bad decisions. But if you think about it, I mean, when we had Nick Fairley and Dominican Sue, Calvin Johnson, Matt Stafford, we had a team, Glover Quinn, Diggs.
Cliff Averill, he was a good one.
Yeah, we had a team, and it was, albeit like a season and a half, we had a team, and they could have done something, but they just couldn't put it together. But that's the nice thing about Billy Sims now, is that he's back, he's around, he's at the team facility every so often. You know, he's got the Farmington Hills location there for Billy Sims barbecue, and he'll be out there in the fall, and he'll be attending some of the Lions games, I'm sure. It's probably when we'll have a chance to do our thing with him, hopefully. But yeah, Billy Sims, man. So I wanted to wrap up Billy Sims just by saying that I'm now more interested in seeing how Jahmyr Gibbs ends up, right? And is Jahmyr Gibbs going to be that next somebody? Because the Lions have been missing that next somebody in the backfield for, since 1999.
And who played in 99? Who was it again?
It was Barry's last season.
It was, yeah.
98, 99.
Who have we had in the backfield besides a name? I mean, we had Reggie Bush, which was more of a name than anything. I mean,
he was at the end of his career.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, but that was the problem I had with Reggie Bush. I mean, he so much as had a stiff breeze hit him the wrong way. He was on the sideline for 2 games. I mean, that was my big issue with him.
They tried, right? They drafted Michael LeSure. They drafted Javid Best. They drafted Kerryon Johnson, DeAndre Swift. I mean, you name it, they've tried. But for whatever reason, it's just not working out. And now that we have an offensive line that's been consistent for a couple of seasons, now you bring in another top tier running back that could be that next guy. And that's what I'm excited about. I'm hoping that, Billy gets a chance to get down there and wrap his arms around these guys and talk them up and see what they've got, to offer. So to wrap up his career highlights, I mean, this guy, offensive rookie of the year, 1980, first team All-Pro, 81, second team All-Pro, 1980, 3-time Pro Bowl, 80, 81, 82, NFL rushing touchdowns co-leader, 1980, the PFWA All-Rookie Team, 1980, Detroit Lions 75th anniversary team, Detroit Lions all-time team, Detroit Lions number 20. They say it was retired, but something tells me it wasn't. I think Barry's was retired, right? Heisman Trophy, 1978. The UPI Player of the Year in 1978. Davey O'Brien Memorial Trophy in 1978. 2-time Consensus All-American in 78 and 79. And, of course, those years were in college. So, absolutely incredible career. Phenomenal man. Philanthropy, he does it all. And he loves to give back. He loves to be a part of the community. And I just hope we get another Billy Sims, another Barry Sanders in the backfield sometime soon.
We will. And just a real quick to what you're saying, Will, you mentioned some names like Javid Best, DeAndre Swift. I was a big fan of Javid Best. I thought he was amazing. Problem we had with him, he got all those concussions and had to retire, unfortunately. And then DeAndre Swift, he was the next one that I thought could have been maybe the guy. But then the same thing, the guy, he can't stay healthy. So I think a lot's riding on Jahmyr Gibbs. I have high hopes for him. He looked good in college, but that doesn't mean it's always going to translate to the NFL. So let's keep the hope that we're getting the next backfield thing. We need it. We really need it.
Well, I hate to be a downer on such a good couple of former Lions to talk about, but we do have some news to discuss about the Lions. So OTA started a few days ago. I think they're into day 3 today, if I'm not mistaken. And Jahmyr Gibbs, I don't think he's really been on the field participating yet. He's been off with a lower leg injury. I think it was an ankle. And today, David Montgomery injured his left lower leg, I believe, as well. So he came off the field, came up gingerly while making a cut. Hopefully it's nothing too bad. But if it is, looks like Gibbs is going to get the shot, for the whole season if something does go down with Montgomery. I'll be really disappointed if we lose somebody this early.
That would be just our luck too.
Well, I mean, we've already lost Jamison Williams.
I know, but that's what I mean. No more.
Then you've got what else we got going on? Well, we still have was it Mohammed Ibrahim, the UDFA out of Minnesota, and if you ever get a chance to watch some of that guy's highlights, you want to talk about somebody that's got speed and who's shifty and can change pace, change direction, on a dime. He's somebody that's kind of my dark horse heading into this training camp to make the team, or at least he'll make the practice squad. But if there's any sort of an injury to Montgomery or Gibbs, I think Ibrahim's going to make the team. I mean, if he can stay healthy, what he did in Minnesota, now he did get, banged up quite a bit because he ran the ball a ton at Minnesota. But his mileage and his experience will speak for itself. So I'm really excited to see what Ibrahim does. But so anyway, David Montgomery suffers an injury. Gibbs is still sidelined. Now Jamison looked pretty good. I did watch some cuts of Jamison.
Yeah, he did. He did look good.
First thing I said when I saw Jamison, I said he's got gears, like multiple gears. I mean, he just looks so smooth and effortless when he was running around, running a few 18-yard ins, doing a few cuts. He's just smooth, man. He's going to be exciting. And who said it? Who said it today? Was it Tracy Walker? I think it was Tracy Walker that said that Jamison Williams is going to be our secret weapon. Those are nice words to hear, man. When you've got a leader in the DB room that, is touting a young guy that he's going to come out and be one of our secret weapons. That's exciting. And the other exciting news was on Aiden Hutchinson. So Aiden was talking about he, lost a little bit of weight. He was eating too much junk. But if you've seen this guy's jaw today, and you could tell that Hutchinson is put on about 15 pounds in the offseason. So he's not really leaned out. He's gained some muscle. He's looking bigger and faster and more explosive. So I think that's going to be something to watch as we move forward throughout the training camp, because he will definitely lose a few pounds as they get through training camp. But he brought in a private chef. He started to, learn how to cook and prepare and eat better meals, get rid of all the takeout. And biggest thing that he was talking about was inflammatory processes and the type of foods to eat, which I thought was interesting. It's a big thing in today's world. Even my rheumatologist talks about eating the right foods for inflammatory processes, and all the junk you put in, that's what you're going to get out of it. So if you're eating a bunch of crap, you're going to get a bunch of crap back. And it was just interesting to hear it come from Aiden, how he was changing his diet and trying to do the right things. So excited to see what happens.
I'll tell you right now, I would put money on it. I'm not saying you and me will, but I'll tell you right now, I would bet a bill Aiden's going to have an absolutely explosive breakout sophomore year with us.
I hope so. I'm not overly concerned with sacks. Okay, I'd rather them stop the run,
right? Of course,
than get sacks. And I think that if the defensive backfield is able to shut down just that half a second longer, the sacks will come. And that was their problem last year. And Tracy said it best. Tracy Walker today said our defensive backfield was one of the worst, if not the worst in the league last year.
It was
terrible.
terrible.
Now we've got all of these playmakers, and they're going to make some noise. And I thought that was just great to hear that he's excited. He can't do anything yet. He's still sidelined too. But it's just exciting to hear that they're excited. and they're ready, and they're itching to get out there. So before we get into another hour podcast, we should probably cut it off because we could probably go for a long time talking about all the new exciting stuff. So next week, Monday, are we going to try to get into a regular episode?
Yes.
So I guess we'll talk about it over the weekend, but I think next week, Monday, we're going to try to get into a regular episode where we can get away from Lions Legends only. It can get a little boring at times, and start getting into more of the current events and back to kind of what's going on. Because we're going to have about a month lull, between OTAs and training camp where there's going to be some things to cover or nothing to cover.
Right.
But we'll talk about it. So maybe you guys will see us on Monday. And if you do come across the stream tonight, we have no idea how it's working yet because this is a new platform. But at any rate, visit the Rock Down Detroit Lions webpage, Rock Down Podcast Network webpage and Facebook page. Give us a like, give us a follow, send us some comments, find the live stream and send us a comment so we can figure out how this thing is working. And then we'll get back at it next week. Anything you want to say, Andy?
Nope. I want to say, everybody, thanks for watching tonight. Will and I are enjoying doing these Lions Legends. And what do we got next week, Will? Who do we got next Thursday? Who is it again?
So next week, Thursday, let's take a look at the schedule here. Next week, Thursday. So next week, Thursday, it's just one person, obviously. But we're going to get into... You ready for this?
Ready.
Are you sure?
I'm waiting, man.
The Curse.
Oh,
Bobby Lane.
the curse of Bobby Lane. Damn it, man.
So we're going to get into the Curse of Bobby Lane next week on Thursday night. And I'm hesitant to do it.
I am too.
But, as far as we know, it's been put to rest. But then again, the season hasn't started yet either. So,
Right.
At any rate, next week, Monday, we're going to try to get into a regular episode of Off the Cuff and talk about regular Detroit Lions things. So without further ado, we'll see y'all next week. We hope you guys enjoyed our show tonight, and hopefully we'll bring a little bit better energy for you next week once we figure out how to use this thing. But we'll see y'all later.
Go Lions.
Peace out.
Billy Sims here, and I follow your Detroit Lions group. Here's a little taste of what we have to offer.
Billy Sims knows